Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Rachel here. A Palestinian woman took this to social media, calling out Black Americans, and she did not hold back. She's calling the group that she went with to Palestine to help her. Rotten tomatoes. Her reason might surprise you, but I know you'll not be surprised, because there's a whole part of the story that she's not telling. So see this, when Black Americans showed up in Palestine to help, they were met with racism. I'm not talking about little shade kind of racism. I'm talking about deep, blatant racial slurs. You know, sometimes I think Black Americans are taken advantage of by other groups of minorities. They're expected to show up, and they used to, because now they're taking a break. They show up, they speak up, and they support every cause, but they don't get the same treatment, the same love in return, and enough of that. Now she got upset because the Black Americans had the courage to respond to the racism they received. Our original video was about 8 minutes, so I had to do some cuts. If you're interested in watching, I'm gonna put her name. You can go and watch it on TikTok. The entire video is about 8 minutes. That aside, this video got a lot of reactions from the Black community, and I'm gonna play those clips for you, but make sure you leave your own thoughts in the comment section down below. And please remember, we need to be mindful of the comments that we're leaving under this video, because we don't want our YouTube to remove our comments, right? We need to have this conversation even in the comment section down below. So let's watch this together.
I don't know what I was expecting from my trip to Palestine, but I certainly did not expect to walk away with racial tensions between myself and the Black people in our group. And that's really disappointing for the Palestinian cause, which is problematic in and of itself. But the most problematic thing was the fact that some people were applying a Western lens of racial dynamics to a place where it does not apply. I am not going to sit here and deny that anti-blackness exists in every single part of the world. But for the 7 Black people in the group, which under almost any other circumstances I would encourage. I encourage Black people to create safe spaces for themselves, to discuss racial issues among themselves. But the issue is that the only comments I heard come out of this person's mouth about Palestine and Palestinians were negative, were about how racist we are, were about how slavery persisted until the 20th century in Palestine, which he was shocked when I asked him about racism in Palestine, because he was like, those are my racist. By the way, go support that artist. He's Banksy.2 on Instagram. He's an incredible person, incredible artist who I'm still in communication with. That was supposed to be, I believe, of Nelson Mandela, but it wasn't the greatest art. And so it kind of looked like George Floyd. And she made a comment about how, oh, notice how they're not asking the Black people for money because they think all Black people are poor. And you're immediately up here to them. They immediately assume you have money to Black activism, because if I was somebody else, if I haven't already done so much work for the Black community, if I didn't already have a deep understanding of racial dynamics, this entire experience might have pushed me away from the Black community. But I know that these rotten tomatoes in the community do not represent the Black community as a whole. One of the most ironic parts about all of this is that before making this video, I was sitting in a cafe in Amman, journaling my thoughts about this. I don't know what I was expecting from my trip to Palestine, but I certainly did not expect to walk away with racial tensions between myself and the Black people in our group.
So let me get this straight. Old girl got in her feelings because Black people who were in Palestine helping out non-Black Palestinian people told her about their experiences of anti-Blackness, and she decided to hop on the internet and crap on them for it, and then try to do the Oppression Olympics. And then you wonder why the pro-Pally movement in the States is dying.
The concept of Black American solidarity with Palestinians has been completely misconstrued and weaponized. The idea of solidarity is mutual aid being rendered both ways. And obviously speaking now, Palestinians in Palestine don't really have the capacity for mutual aid and solidarity because they're experiencing a genocide in a way that's been rapidly increased by the fact that Donald Trump is in office. When we talk about solidarity between Black Americans and Palestinians, what we talk about is that Black American civil rights activists have always recognized that Palestinians deserve to be free and that their struggle needs to come to an end. When we talk about that for Palestinians, it's the same. They recognize that the struggle that Black Americans and Black people across the diaspora experience should come to an end. The caveat is that when I said that, I didn't say all Black Americans. I said Black American activists. The reason why I said that is because not every Black American is keyed into everything happening around the world globally, or let alone the things that are happening to communities that are not their own. Just like how I'm saying with specificity that Black American activists were the ones that were in support of this solidarity between Palestinians and Black Americans, the Palestinians that were able to be keyed into what was going on abroad were the only ones that were in support of Black Americans, because largely speaking, even before October 7th, they were experiencing a genocide. The problem with the idea, though, is that the idea isn't just exclusive to Palestinians. Black Americans have solidarity between other Black Americans in different parts of America. Black Americans have a solidarity with other Black peoples outside of America. Black Americans have been pretty keyed in to other forms of oppression and genocide across the world. So when they say this, they're really trying to say, focus on us right now, which I don't disagree with to a degree. But at the point that we are now, there's not really much we can do besides render aid to specific groups of people, like specific families, because the genocide has been accelerated because people didn't vote for Kamala Harris. And that's what I mean when I say it was weaponized, because this solidarity was extended and was most useful when Black people were least oppressed and Palestinians were least oppressed. But right now, both oppressions have been accelerated. So what is there to do for people who are only slightly able to move right now? What are we to do with the people who are now no longer able to move right now? This ends up being a guilt trip tactic rather than something of messaging that uplifts people and inspires people to continue supporting. Notice how when I said all of that, I didn't bring up Palestinian Americans. It's because the solidarity between Palestinians and Black Americans have only really extended to Palestinians in Palestine and Black Americans, because Palestinian Americans have not really shown that same level of solidarity with Black Americans. Yet Palestinian Americans are the ones that bring it up the most. And I'm not saying that there aren't Palestinian Americans who have been keyed into Black American struggles and have activated and acted on things that we are dealing with, but most of them are more like Heba talks because they're performative and they use our struggle and the fact that they help us as tools to weaponize, to force us to do what they want us to do. Otherwise, Heba wouldn't move the way that she moves. And I'm not saying that that's a very specific thing to Palestinian Americans. I'm saying that's a very specific thing to people who aren't Black. Many people who aren't Black haven't deconstructed their anti-Blackness enough to actually truly be in solidarity with Black Americans. It's just a really complicated conversation because we have all these layers. Palestine is oppressed, but also Palestine has anti-Blackness woven into its DNA. But also there are Afro-Palestinians who are a product of the slave trade that they experienced. But also America is oppressing Palestine too. But also Black Americans are being oppressed by America. But also Black Americans end up doing things like joining the military because of the way that they're being oppressed, and the military being one of the only outlets to get out of oppression. Thus they end up being, complicit, quote unquote, in supporting the American industrial complex, military industrial complex. There's all these layers to it that make it really complicated. And the problem with it is that no one engages with any of that, and they just say Palestinians support Black Americans, as if that is just going to activate every Black American to stop what they're doing and start supporting Palestinians, as most of us are struggling now because of the current administration, and this could have been avoided. And when people talk about the election, which a lot of us keep doing, it's because this could have all been avoided, and this would have been a much easier situation for us to continue to support Palestinians if A, a lot of the people who are part of the movement deconstructed their anti-Blackness, and B, if Kamala Harris or any Democrat was in office rather than Donald Trump, who is a friend of Bibi Netanyahu. But yeah.
Respectfully, nobody cares about what you have and haven't seen. There's been multiple Black people on this app who what's their name? Roscoe or whatever. They legit replied to their videos calling them out for the anti-Black sentiments that they had. Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean that it's not factual or that it's not true. So I'm not sure why you included that into your sentence. Nobody cares about your personal experience. Even saying that is indicating that the other person's lying or that you haven't seen it or blah, 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 which is disingenuous to the argument. Anti-Blackness is the same amount of harmful no matter what group it comes from. No matter what group it comes from. Just because another group is experiencing something, sorry, my cat was doing something. But just because one group is experiencing something terrible does not give them the right to be more anti-black or to excuse the anti-blackness.
This is why some people are so dangerous to the movement, not only to the pro-Palestinian movement, but also to black activism. Because if I was somebody else, if I haven't already done so much work for the black community, if I didn't already have a deep understanding of racial dynamics, this entire experience might have pushed me away from the black community. But I know that these rotten tomatoes in the community do not represent the black.
I don't speak for us all, but I do speak for the rotten tomatoes when I say you can go. Consider yourself pushed, shoved. You are lucky that you were able to cobble together a group of black people to go on that trip in the first place. After you nonsense, never Kamala, vote for Kamala as a vote for genocide people shows your asses last November. Okay? Also, I don't believe you. I don't believe the beggars asking for money incident is the only instance of racism that they experience. I believe it's the most innocuous one that you strategically picked to minimize their concerns. Okay?
Palestine is racist towards black people. Let's talk about it. So after the video I put up on Friday, I got a bunch of comments that suggested that we as black people should stay out of the conflict because Palestinians are also racist. And in fact, they have a city called Al Abid, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, which means slave. And it's meant for black people to stay in slum-like conditions there. So obviously I did my own research so that I could reach my own conclusions. I also found this really cool story about this Afro-Palestinian journalist here, Nasreen Salem, and she went through detail in terms of the persecution she's experienced both from Palestinian people and the IDF. Additionally, we should know that Palestine participated in the Arab slave trade and slavery was only abolished in the country in the early 20th century. However, despite all of this information, I am still very much pro-Palestine, even more so than ever before, and let me tell you why. If you care about Afro-Palestinians, black people living in Palestine, then you'd understand that they are going through a genocide by way of the Israeli government, and they are also experiencing discrimination from their Palestinian peers as well as Israelis as well. But in order for us to fight for their freedom from said discrimination, they need to be alive to see us fight for them. They need to survive the genocide. So if you care about black people all over the world and you care about Afro-Palestinians, then there is absolutely no excuse for you not to be pro-Palestine in this conflict. If you are just using this as a reason to say that you should stay out or that black people shouldn't get involved, then simply put, you don't care about other people who look like you, who are not in your immediate vicinity. So no, I don't think that's a good enough reason or even a reason at all to not be pro-Palestine.
So as information comes out, it becomes evident that this story that this one told about the black people that visited Palestine and experienced anti-blackness and came to her, or it was in a private conversation that they were having amongst themselves, discussing the anti-blackness that they experienced in Palestine, it's becoming more and more evident that she made this shit up. And I honestly have to thank, truthfully, the Arabs that started dropping down into my comment section and sliding in my inbox and basically saying to me that her story made no sense. The question that I consistently got from Arabs that were genuinely questioning her story is, where were they visiting in Palestine? And I didn't understand at first why they were asking that question until I started thinking about the fact that if this was truly a group that was going to Palestine, I know the Israeli government would not allow them to. That they would have to be visiting Israel, or they would have to go to another country like Jordan or Lebanon and enter into the Palestinian-controlled regions by land. And they would also go through Israeli checkpoints in order to enter those Palestinian regions. So what this tells me is the trip was to that region. And the group of black people, the black Americans that she speaks of, were probably visiting Israel. And they weren't visiting Palestine. And I find it odd that the people that make the argument that Palestinians are not a monolith will make the argument that black people are a monolith. So if certain black people do things, then the entirety of the black community needs to be condemned for what those black people do. One of the things you need to understand about black people, specifically black Christians, is Zionism exists. in the Black Christian church. And it's not this idea of the Israeli government. They don't really support the Israeli government. It's them in their religious belief being conditioned to believe that the only way the Messiah can return is if Israel is already set up. So the existence of Israel is very key to the Christian existence, specifically with conservative Black Christians. Because in their belief, they believe that Israel is the place that all of the Christians will return to when the Messiah, Jesus Christ, comes back to earth. So what that also tells me is the point that a lot of people were making in her comment section when they were asking her, what are the specifics? What facts are missing from this story? That could be one of the facts, that this wasn't a group that went to help Palestinians, that this was a group of Black people that were going to visit Israel that happened to experience anti-Blackness in the Palestinian-controlled regions. And they were discussing that anti-Blackness that they were experiencing in a private group. And this one, brought it to the internet to poo-poo those Black people for pointing out the anti-Blackness that they were experiencing in the Palestinian-controlled region. And even if these were Zionist Black people, which she didn't say that they were, because she said that she believed that they would be allies to the Palestinian people, it still does not negate that they experience anti-Blackness. With everything that you guys are going through, you still have time for anti-Blackness? Because she didn't say in her video, she didn't say that they were lying. She didn't say that it didn't happen. She simply said that their cries about anti-Blackness were unimportant to her. That's what she said. Her story seems to be made up. It seems like this story was created so that she can have an opportunity to be anti-Black. And there are a lot of people that are seeing through her bullshit, even Arabs. I see y'all in my comment section. I see y'all in my inbox. I hear you guys. And I'm glad that you guys are pointing out the flaws in her story and how it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so before I say anything, let me just add this. Black Americans and Black people in general have always stood in solidarity with other races. That's never been the issue. We show up, we speak out, we put our lives on the line for movements that don't always concern us directly, because that's just how we are. We believe in justice for all, but let's be real for a second. That energy is rarely ever reciprocated. And a lot of folks, Black Americans, they've made it clear on all social media platforms, they are tired and they're resting. Tired of being the first ones on the front lines and the last ones to be defended. Tired of being expected to show up, shut up, and support while others feel comfortable disrespecting them. The moment they speak out about their own pain. So at this point, with how things are moving, I think what we're going to start doing is, we're gonna start standing for our own people, because enough is enough. Let's bring it back to this specific situation. These Black Americans volunteered, mind you. They volunteered, went all the way to Palestine to help, not for clouds, not for recognition, just to be part of something bigger than themselves. They showed up in solidarity. They could have stayed home, but they didn't. And what did they get in return? Racism. Flat out racial discrimination. And not the low key either. I'm talking about deep slurs, head side eyes. They were mistreated, in other words. And then when they spoke out about it, when they said, hey, this ain't right, what happened? There are a lot of ways people can respond to certain things, They were blamed. This woman blamed them, She came out online to shame them. This Palestinian woman has the nerve to jump online and call them rotten tomatoes? Really? That's what we're doing now? Let me just ask one thing. I'm going to ask this to the same Palestinian and every other race apart from Black people. What did Black people do to you? Anyway? Anybody? What did Black people do? Seriously, where's all this hostility coming from? We show up, especially Black Americans. Guys, I give you respect. You are there for any. I mean, I've been since TikTok, I've learned so much on TikTok. I thank TikTok because I've learned so much. I've seen how you guys show up for the others, how you guys help others, you know. They spit in your face, you know. The people who come to support, I mean, the people who went to support her are being dragged online. She's dragging them online and insulted. I mean, how do you call people rotten tomatoes? And her excuse, it's not even making sense. It's not valid. And she went on to say, I know not all black people are like that. Come on. That is not, you know, we don't expect people to be moved by that. That's a cop out. If you knew not all black people were like that, why generalize that in the first place? Generalize. I don't know why I struggle to pronounce that word. Like the brother in the cup said, I think it should be the last clip. Her story just isn't adding up. Something about it feels off. Selective storytelling is dangerous. So she conveniently left out the part where black Americans were racially abused while volunteering in Palestine. At the same time, she did not refuse to say they weren't, racially abused. She left out the part where they were hurt and instead painted a narrative that centered her feelings while erasing theirs. She had time, her video was like 8 minutes long. She had all the time in the world to tell the truth, and still she chose what to say and what to hide. The good thing is that people are starting to see through it. Social media isn't as, you know, easy to manipulate as it used to be then. People are catching on. We are not stupid. Now to my black folks who went to Palestine, let me speak to you directly. Weren't you supposed to be resting? What were you doing in Palestine? Anyway, don't answer me that. I know, I forgot. We are nice like that. Black people are helpers. We are the ones who step up, who show empathy, who say, if you're not hurting, I'm hurting. We can't help it. It's in our DNA. Rotten tomatoes? Nah, that's too much. That's too far. I guess that was so easy for her to say because, you know, we've been the easy targets for so long, especially online. People feel bored when they're behind the screen. But let me remind all of you something. Those same black Americans she was talking about were the same ones trying to make a difference in all this. Calling them after all they did, that was cold, that was disrespectful, and no amount of not all black people disclaimers can soften the blow. At the very least, if she had truly been genuine, she should have listened to the concerns her fellow volunteers shared, should have acknowledged the racist remarks from her own people. But she did instead. She picked the version of the story that made her look like the victim and made black Americans look like the villains. That's not okay. That's not honest, and it's not solidarity. So look, I know this is a lot to take in. Maybe you need to watch a full video to get a better picture. I had to trim her video because it was too long. So if you want to watch it, I've put the name on a clip at the beginning of this video, the first clip. Maybe you see what I'm saying, or maybe you catch something I missed. But one thing's for sure, the whole thing is messy. It says a lot about how black people are treated, even when they mean well, even when they show up in love. Yeah. Let me know what you think about this video, guys, in the comment section down below. And remember to be mindful about the comments that you'll be leaving. You don't want YouTube to flag your comments. We need to have this conversation even in the comment section down below. I'll definitely see you in my next video. Please stay peaceful, and thanks for watching. By the way, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, turn on that notification bell so that every time I upload a video, you will be notified. Thank you.